and I think that's why I was like supported you guys and think you've got a great program going because, and you know, I'm sure you see it with people like Keon and you know your other clients as well. Like, even though my girlfriend was from online,
Right.
the you know, I think because I think it was like, you know, I went from not having a date in 5 years to then I think it was like 5 dates in a week. And I think it was like 3 or 4 of them, maybe 2 were from online and 3 were from cold approach that week.
And it was your first week of cold approach that you got those numbers.
Yeah. And but the thing is because it was like now I had options.
Right.
That's the key.
And now I kind of because before I think when you don't have like that quote unquote lead flow coming in, it would have been the first somewhat attractive woman. I would have fallen in love with them like in 2 minutes kind of thing. Because imagine like you've gone that long without even really an interaction with a girl, you know?
Yes.
But I remember like there was even, I think it was a date on the Friday and it was a girl that I thought I was going to, you know, she was from cold approach. I thought that was going to be my exact type and she was physically my type. But then when we went on a date, I was like, oh, actually, no, she's not what I'm looking for because I have this sense of like comparison now.
Yeah.
So.
And before, had you not had that comparison, you might have tried to force it to work.
Yeah.
I'm going to make her be exactly who I want. Ignore the red flags. I remember you coming to me like, yeah, you know, it was all right.
Yeah.
And the fact that though you were just able to say that so calmly, like you're like, yeah, whatever. Like there'll be more. I was like, okay, he's starting to get it. He's starting to understand the process.
And I think like when you combine when you combine the cold approach with the online, because online can sometimes be laborious sometimes in some ways of like it's, you know, you can get a lot of matches, but then
the
conversion, you know, you might not get dates, you know, like it's not like you get 10 matches and 10 dates kind of thing,
yes,
you know?
Yeah.
Whereas
this guy might.
Yeah, well,
for the average,
for
the average human being.
For normal people, us being mortals.
Us mortals.
But that's where like you supplement that with the cold approach because the cold approach might be less volume but better in terms of conversion because they've met you in person. So I think it was like of the X amount of people I'd met from cold approach, the likelihood of going on a date was a lot higher, you know, compared to, you know, the number of matches on a Bumble. So having both, you know, it meant that like I had those options kind of like going for me. And then I was like, okay, like this one, she's not really what I'm looking for, but, you know, and then it's just really like out of those like all those girls that I'd met, you know, and then gone on first dates. And then it's just like, okay, like who is the one that's like actually starting to stick out? And then, you know, the one that happened to stick out is the person that's now my girlfriend, you know?
And it's crazy, like touching a couple of those points, like with the cold approach, like you were able to approach, it was one of his first cold approaches. It was the Russian model.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember her.
So had you tried to slide into her DMs, like just like any normal dude would?
Oh,
like
yeah. Wow, that would, I mean, I don't think she would have blocked me straight away and stuff like that.
You probably wouldn't even have made it into the DMs. You would have made it into the...
it would have just gone into
the
the you know, because, someone like, you know, like looks like that and, you know, has that kind of Instagram kind of look. Yeah, like an Instagram look. You know, and I think that's what I was trying to talk about in terms of how your offline can help your online, because it's kind of like, if it's like, wow, like I was able to like go on a date with this quote unquote model type girl, and then it's like, you know, you're
they lose their allure online, maybe.
Well, not necessarily that, but it's like your actual confidence improves, right? The problem with sometimes the online, if you're doing the online only, is the algorithm is what validates your sense of attractiveness.
Sure.
Right?
100%.
So like the algorithm can actually like give you like these like, and I remember this in London. Oh my gosh, like there were sometimes back in London where I was like, and it was like insulting, you know, like do you know what I mean? Like it was like kind of like, what, like this is what I'm matching with? Like, am I that ugly? Like, you know?
Yeah.
And so you start to get into your head a little bit. So sometimes when you're like, oh shit, like there's a super, you know, attractive girl. And when we were doing the cold approach, I think to shout out what you do, which I think makes you different, is it's not necessary. It wasn't like go and talk to this girl that's a 4 out of 10, a 6 out of 10, and you know, relative, right? Like what you're, you know, someone I didn't find attractive. It was only talk to girls that I found attractive, you know?
Yeah.
So it kind of, and then just getting that sort of sense of validation of like, oh wow, they actually are interested in me.
Yeah.
They're
You know?
nice, and they're stoked at the fact that I came up to them. And
Yep.
not only are they not going to shut me down and be really crappy about it, but I made their day.
Yep.
Right. I remember your date too you had with the Russian model because she met us at a pool party.
Yep.
And you're like, it was a good date. Like, it was a good time. Like, we had a good time. She was really engaged. And I'm sure that was part of it because she's like, finally, a guy that actually came up to me. And like,
Yes.
had
Yeah,
the
they just
balls to
looked
say
at
hi.
her.
Yep. And it didn't work out, obviously, because you met your girlfriend now. But it was just a really reaffirming thing that what you were doing was working.
Yes.
So that's fantastic to hear a story. I always love hearing when guys get results. And I always joke whenever I work with someone personally, or now Joel and I are obviously working together for those who have been following the channel for a while, my clients always get better results than I do and a lot quicker than I did, which I suppose is the value of getting to coach in the first place. But I'm curious to take a step back and see, what is it that you had tried before?
Yeah, so I tried, you know, in my early 20s, I tried, you know, some, and they were good coaches at the time, and they did help me get results in terms of, because, you know, back in my early 20s, I couldn't even talk to a girl sort of thing, right? You know, so that helped me a lot in terms of just like understanding how to talk and stuff like that. The difference was though is that like, and you know, this is something that we had to overcome together, was that I was like, okay, I would go on a great date and then not knowing what to do next. You know, I wouldn't know how to like go past, you know, that sort of, you know, the progression of where things should go and leading and stuff like that. So it was great in terms of, you know, going on a date and making someone laugh or this kind of stuff. When you know, with those early dating coaches in my early 20s. And then like, I think I did try to look into, I think I actually did end up buying it, or maybe I, you know, had access to it, but I never really ran with it, was the whole social game kind of thing, the Michael Sartain kind of thing. Yeah. And I think that with that, I think it was one of those things where I think it looks maybe cooler than maybe it is on like social media and stuff like that. And maybe at the time where I'm at in my life, that's also not what I'm looking for.
Right.
You know, like I'm not really that interested in hanging out and going partying all the time.
Yeah.
Or
Just to take pictures with hot chicks?
yeah, all this sort of stuff, you know, like I wanted something that was much more meaningful, you know, someone that could give me that support in my life, you know, that kind of femininity to my sort of masculinity. So, you know, it was really like, I think like when we first started working together, is what was helpful for me was like sort of just understanding that there's like every guy is going to have a different goal. Yeah. You know, like some guys want to do the whole rotation thing, and that's completely fine. And some guys want, you know, more like me, want a more long-term sort of meaningful relationship, which is also equally fine as well. So Jaren's like kind of program, and then kind of is really like just explaining that there are these different options, and these options are kind of dependent on what your goal is in the first place.
Right.
You know?
Those are the first two modules. The first one's just mindset makeover. Number 2
Yeah.
is like, here's all of these other options you have out there. Because a lot of guys come, they're like, I need help with dating. I'm like, well, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
And 99% of the time I get the answer like, oh, I never really thought about that. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I can't help you if you can't tell me what you want.
Right.
You can't help yourself either.
Because that's the thing. It's like when you know what you're looking for, then the dating became easier because I wasn't just basing my dates or conversations or my interactions with the girls based on just their looks.
Yeah.
Or, you know, so it was just like, okay, I'm looking for this, I'm solving for this, you know, and this is the kind of, you know, model I want to follow, which is a more long-term monogamous model, right? More traditional model, I guess. And so I'm looking for someone that's going to be more traditional.
Yes.
I'm looking for, and so it's almost like once what I found was like, it was very easy to actually go like, well, that girl's attractive, but she's not what I'm looking for at this moment in time, you know? Yeah. And so then it became a lot easier to kind of just go like, okay, well, so when I did make the decision to have a girlfriend, it was quite an easy decision.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't like something like I was like, oh my gosh, like, should I do this? Should I not? It just was like, yeah, this is the right person.
That's our goal for our guys too, is for them to become the selector. Because a lot of guys come to us and they pretty much just take, and you mentioned earlier, the attitude before coming with us, I'll just take whatever I can get. You know, first girl who shows me some affection and she's attractive, okay, I want that. And I always teach my guys and instill it in their heads, you are the selector. So when you create options for yourself, then you get to see like, oh yeah, you know, she checks this boxes, but this is kind of a deal breaker for me. So next, and now you're the one disqualifying girls rather than girls disqualifying you.
And I think that's a really good point because